Hi and welcome to today's video. Today I'm reviewing a range of notebooks from the company Kunisawa, which is a Japanese brand. These are pretty luxury notebooks, and I was sent a number of them by the company to review, including everything from pocket sort of notebooks or notepads through to sort of more substantial notebooks like this. Now, these are labelled as fountain pen friendly, and I'm going to show just a few tests just to sort of see how they stack up, and I'm going to compare it to one other brand of paper which I think is an interesting alternative. These, as I said, I've got a range of these. We'll look at them all in more detail in the other camera angle, but these are not cheap notebooks. These are, particularly here in Australia, you can buy them from stores like Milligram, and they do cost a bit of money. They are much more affordable, of course, in Japan, but they're not run-of-the-mill everyday notebooks. They're made beautifully, they look fabulous, but as fountain pen users, what are we interested in? The quality of the paper. So let's check that out. Okay, so here we are with a range of notebooks from Kunisawa. Now this is a Japanese brand. This is the Find notebook. So it's spiral bound. It says on the front here, fountain pen, ballpoint or ball pen and pencil. We'll go into that in a second. I just wanted to show you some of the other books that I've been sent here and talk a little bit about these. So this is the Find block memo. Now, I'm sorry about the noise of opening all these up. I just wanted to show how they were presented. And we can see how we go from there. Okay, so this is a basic, very tiny grid little memo notepad here. Not dissimilar in size to the very small Rhodia notepad. But this has got quite a tight binding on it, but the pages, are perforated and all that sort of thing. So it's a nice little, very small notebook. Next we have the Find Pocket, which is a spiral bound, top bound notebook. As I think I might have said, there's not the range of line rules and things that you get from some other brands with the Kunisawa paper. Here we have a wider grid. As you can see, the two different grids there. That's a very fine grid indeed. These are, sort of very nicely made notepads indeed. This one has 50 pages. It's roughly 145 by 90 millimeters. So it's a good pocket size. As you can see, the size difference there. This is a standard A5. That gives you a sense of scale. So these are lovely products. One beautiful product here is the Smart Note hardcover Find notebook. This is where we start to get the gilded edges, a lovely, nice little luxury detail on this book. Here we have, this is 95 centimeters by 167, so 167 millimeters. It's a really sort of nice sort of hardcover notebook, and it 40 pages and the 2.5 millimeter grid again, so that small grid. My opinion on this grid is that it's probably it as far as grid goes, is probably a little bit oppressive to the eye, being so small. It is faintly lined, so you can easily write through it, but there is quite a lot going on the page. But it does give you an option. If the regular 5mm rule is just too small for you to write line to line, you could use 3 of these and you'd end up with something that's probably quite close to, well, it's quite close to a 7mm rule. I like, you can see here the gilded edges of the book. It's beautifully made. It's got lovely binding. The paper quality feels very nice on, to the touch. And once again, fountain pen, ballpoint and pencil, all of these suggesting they are fountain pen friendly. Next we have two very nice notebooks, both in 5mm grid rule. They are the Find notebooks here we have the soft and the hard. Now the hard is A5 size, and the soft is sort of a narrow A5, not quite as narrow as say the Traveler's Notebook size, but narrower than a regular A5. It's 192 pages, and yeah, all these are made in Japan, and yeah, quite beautifully made. Let's take these out and see what they're about as well. So as you can see here, lovely 5mm grid. It's once again the paper in these books feel really nice. Now this cover is like a sort of a material sort of coating cardboard. It's quite soft, but it feels durable. It's got some nice sort of strength to it, and yeah, they're nicely bound. You can see there in the spine how the binding actually works there. It's quite nice. It's got a ribbon. It's where is that? That was here somewhere, I think. There we go. So it's got the bookmark ribbon. It's a really lovely book. It reminds me in a lot of ways of the Greenwood Classics notebook, but slightly sort of more luxury market. This doesn't have the gilded edges. This is sort of, I suppose this is more a carry sort of notebook. And then here we have the hardcover, which is really quite a lovely book indeed. This has the gilded edges, and this sort of, it's still not a hard hardcover. It's certainly not hard like a Leuchtturm or anything like that, or the Rhodia Webby. It's sort of still semi-flexible. It has, in here, where are we? The ribbon bookmark, 5mm grid. This is a nice grid. I like this color. The paper is slightly off-white. If we look at it here, in comparison to like Rhodia, you can see the Rhodia white. You can see just how off-white that paper is. So this is a really lovely book. This opens beautifully flat, with just a simple sort of push down. And if you look at the binding there, you can see that it's sort of, the spine doubles back on itself, so it's not got that hard spine, which is what stops a lot of books sort of sitting flat. It doesn't have, you know, like a back pocket or anything like that. It's just a really lovely, elegant hardcover, sort of material hardcover notebook. And then we have the spiral bound one, which is what I've done some writing tests in. This is once again the 5mm grid. It's got 80 pages or 80 sheets or 160 pages. And of course, because of this coil binding, it sits beautifully, perfectly flat. It's the same yellow paper, the gilded gilded edges of the pages, which is a lovely touch, sort of like a rose goldy sort of color. This is a lovely, lovely, beautifully made notebook, and a little bit more affordable. As I said, a lot of these products are available from retailers like Milligram in Australia, so check them out. I was able to get these I got these directly from Kunisawa for this review, and I'm particularly reviewing the paper. I've spoken about how these books are made and how they feel in the hand. They are beautifully made. They look great. I think the grey and the sort of the rosy gold is a really lovely colour combination, and there's something quite elegant about the look of these books. I think the little 2.5mm grid is kind of insane, but I can see the value of it. I personally just prefer the 5mm grid rule of this paper. It'd be interesting to see if they come out with other grid rulings, like straight line rule or a dot grid or something like that. But at the moment, this is what is available. So if I take the belly band off, it's a lovely cardboard actually. It's quite robust. A lot of these have "I do not seek," I find, written on them, in either on the front pages or in the cover like this. That appears to be a lot of their branding, which is quite fine. This is a interesting book, and one that I compare this directly to is the Life Stationery notebook. This here is it's Life Stationery Symphony notebook, and it's ruled. It's another double coil bound book with a cardboard cover. This one has 100 sheets as opposed to the 80 that are in here. They're both A5, both made in Japan. Both sort of quite not overly sort of decorated. The life one there having a bit more sort of embossed on the front there, and this is a line ruled. But I have to say the paper quality of this Life Symphony is of a higher quality than the Kunisawa. Now the Kunisawa is quite thin paper, whereas the Life Stationery is actually quite robust, thick paper, coated paper, and is therefore slightly more fountain pen friendly. The coil binding, of course, being more pages, is a bigger binding on the Life Symphony, but it's this is a very, very classy notebook of this sort of coil bound style. Let's have a look at how the paper actually responds to fountain pen, or to all sort of pen use really. I've done the standard tests that I do on a book here. So I'll just run you through them as we go. So we've got Diamine Syra from a 2SP Eco Medium. We've got Oster Eucalyptus Leaf in a broad, Noodler's Heart of Darkness in a Platinum Preppy, Noodler's Bay State Blue, then Lamy Dark Lilac, Waterman Serenity Blue, Noodler's 54th Massachusetts, and Noodler's Habanero. Now, most of these inks, the Noodler's 54th has been brutal on everything. There's a lot of spread there. You don't get a lot of the spread from the other pens, but you do see ever so slightly a couple of unfortunate little hints of feathering. Now, that to me is a bit of a sign of, if you just look at the word Lamy there, you can see some feathering, that this paper is quite absorbent, and I think we know what that will mean when we look at the reverse in just a second. I also tested a Pilot Friction pen, which came off reasonably well. Sharpie Fineliner, didn't necessarily agree with it so much. Parker Rollerball, Muji Gel Pen, just looks a little bit dull. Lamy Ballpoint was fine, the highlighter was fine. Sharpie Ultrafine Marker, and then a Palomino Blackwing Pencil, which did struggle to rub out entirely. But let's look at it on the reverse. Let's just see what is over here. So here we are. Now, for a paper that is designed to be fountain pen friendly, I struggle to agree. As I said, Noodler's 54th Massachusetts has been brutal on everything. I made a video about that, which you can see on my channel. Noodler's Habanero came through. Of course, all the Sharpies and all that sort of thing came through, as one would expect. The rollerballs even sort of came through a little bit. But Lamy Dark Lilac, Noodler's Bay State Blue, we expect that to come through. And yeah, everything came through a little bit. Noodler's Heart of Darkness there. Anything that is a slightly robust ink, and Lamy Dark Lilac isn't a particularly robust ink, but it came through quite apparently here. Nothing bled through to the reverse of to the next side of the page, so it's only bled through this one, but that's more than enough. One thing about this paper that is quite interesting though, which I quite like, is, I don't know how well it'll be able to be picked up there, but there's actually like a little watermark in the paper, which is actually quite a nice touch. You don't see it so strongly when the page is flat, but when you get it up against some light, and I can't really demonstrate that here very well, but you can get a little bit of a watermark coming through. If I'm going to summarize just about the quality of this paper, the quality of the paper is not up to the standard of the quality of the actual build quality of these books. These are beautifully made, beautifully presented, and quite lovely notebooks. They're all wrapped in plastic. I understand why. I'm not necessarily a fan, but you do have to protect these books in shipping and getting them, in factories and all that sort of thing. So I understand that. I just don't necessarily like it. But they're nice books. They're nicely made, as I said, very nicely presented. But the paper quality, I wouldn't call this fountain pen friendly. I think that there are other brands that are similar in a lot of ways. Things like the moleskin paper, which bleeds and feathers quite heavily as well. So these, as I said, these are lovely books, and they'll be very well used. But from the point of view of a fountain pen user, I'm not entirely sure. So that was a few of the notebooks from the Kunisawa note paper range. I think the performance of the paper is interesting. I think there are better papers around, but I don't think you're going to get too many notebooks and brands of book that are better made or that look nicer. These are beautiful, beautiful books. And when they perform well, they perform really well. But there are a few instances with particular inks, particularly wet inks and sort of more broad pens, where the paper does tend to not hold up quite as well as we might hope. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notifications button if you want to stay up to date with the videos, and please feel free to get in touch using any of the platforms listed below. If there's a product you'd like me to look at, or if there's a way you think you'd like to support this channel, please get in touch. As well as all the platforms listed below, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at @the_offstage_me. Get in touch, let me know you're over there. I'd love to see what you're up to as well. In the meantime, enjoy your pens, enjoy writing, and I'll talk to you later.